2023. We will start, well, first off, if anyone wishes to address council, please sign in on the sign-in sheet here with the clerk. And then we will get started with our prayer for the NCH City Council, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. God our Father, we are all your servants. We trust in your mercy and love. We trust also in your guidance. Direct the meetings of this council of North College Hill to make good decisions for all the people who live in our city. Give all the members of this council wisdom and insight to know what is best for our city. Help us to be fair and just in all our decisions. Bless us all to do the very best we can. With your help and guidance, we pray this in your name. Amen. This meeting is called to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, and good evening once again. I do want to thank Ms. Zorb for filling in for me 2 weeks ago. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Don't let it happen again.
And she just said, don't let it happen again, so I will work very diligently not to do that. That'll bring us up to roll call. Mr. Hedger?
Ms. Dukestein.
Present.
Mr. Wald.
Here.
Ms. Underwood.
Here.
Ms. Alexander. Ms. Zorb.
Here.
Ms. Blythe.
Here.
Ms. Brunner.
Here.
All right, we did receive notice from Ms. Alexander that she would be absent this evening.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I would like to make a motion to excuse Ms. Alexander from tonight's meeting.
Mr. President.
Ms. DeWald?
I second that motion.
Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. DeWald to excuse Ms. Alexander from tonight's meeting. Any discussion? When you're ready, Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein.
Yes.
Mr. Wald.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Ms. Zorb.
Yes.
Ms. Blythe.
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. We do have tonight's agenda.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Mr. President.
Ms. DeWald?
I'll second that.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
All right, motion by Ms. Zorb to accept the agenda, second by Ms. DeWald. Discussion, I have Ms. Blythe.
I'm trying to figure out the difference between, Resolution 14, 2023 and 15, 2023 on our agenda. I guess I'm missing a word or something.
Ms. Zeke, can you help with that?
It might be. Pull my ordinance.
It's warm in here.
I didn't get one time.
One of the titles, and I'm trying to figure out which resolution it is, should be the Joseph and Dodgen Court, and the other one is for Bobolink. So,
Mr. President,
Mr. President.
I did have Ms. Underwood, Ms. Zorb, so please hold.
Section 1 of both pieces of both resolutions refer to Joseph Court and Dodgen Court.
these, Mr. President,
Ms. Zeke?
these documents were updated earlier today, and I think maybe we didn't get the right version printed out for the council packets.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'd also like to point out that associated with Resolution 15, the supporting documentation is referencing Bobolink. And it has a different dollar amount.
Correct.
Yeah, I think there's some mix-up in some of the pages in there,
Yeah,
in both of them.
I do. Yeah. But I can't print it.
Can you just send it to me? I can print it.
So, Resolution 14 is for Joseph and Dodgen, and 15 is for Bobolink.
As the bid summary reports it to be, but when I looked through them, I couldn't see a difference in the bodies. Oh, Mr. President. So I thought that perhaps this was like the resolution for the high grass and stuff, that maybe the title, but I see clearly now that it should be Bobolink on one and Joseph
This
and
resolution
Dodgen on the
15,
other.
Okay.
Is our lawyer going to be here tonight?
Oh, he is not. I'm sorry. He did reach out to me.
Okay.
I meant to mention that, sorry.
That's going to be my next question.
We have this slated for first readings for both of these this evening.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
the legislation for Resolution 14 and Resolution 15 is exactly the same. It's the supporting documentation that's different. I would prefer if it were corrected before we have a first reading.
They were corrected, but it doesn't look like we got the right ones in. So why don't we table these, and we will have the appropriate documentation for the next meeting.
Mr. President.
Ms. Orb.
Ms. Ziki, do you know if either one of them is correct? Like, it almost would appear that 14 might be correct. Correct.
Is 14 correct? Is it 15?
I see in section 1, it references Joseph and Dodgen for 760, and then the supporting documentation says Joseph and Dodgen for 760. So I feel like that one
That
might
one-
be correct. I think it's 15 that has,
That needs
That's
a
jumbled.
correction.
That should be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. President,
Ms. Nichols.
Okay, fine,
Mr. Hedger can get the documentation. He has it now,
Could you-
but I'm not sure.
You'll need to speak up.
I said Mr. Hedger has the documentation. He said he can get it to you now, but I'm not sure what council's pleasure is.
If we get the title of it, we can.
It has the
amend
bobolink.
The title.
I
Yes.
would think if Mr. Hedger can do that, we would go ahead and get that printed out for us.
Mr. President,
Ms. Orb.
we still would need to, if Mr. Hedger, I know we keep going around and around, if Mr. Hedger could tell us the proper name, could we just amend tonight's agenda
Yes.
and just put Bobolink in replace of Joseph and Dodgen in 15, and then he prints out the supporting documentation?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein.
do these have a time restraint?
Ms. Ziki.
Only that if we got these pushed through council, then we could award the contract so that the work could start on the streets. But I'm not sure that delaying it another 2 weeks would be that material.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald.
I'd like to remind council too that this is our last full month of sessions. Next month starts our summer sessions, so we have even less time to work on it. Unless you want to have more meetings during the summer session, right, Ms. Underwood?
Okay, so we actually have a motion and a second on the floor to accept the agenda as,
Mr. President, I withdraw my motion.
okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Orb.
I would like to make a motion to amend tonight's agenda. I would like to motion that we amend the title of Resolution 15 to read a resolution authorizing the city to execute a contract for the reconstruction of Bobolink Court in the city of North College Hill.
It's actually Bobolink Drive. if we're going
Thank
to do
you.
Vicky.
Okay, we have a motion to amend the agenda by changing the title of Resolution 15 on tonight's agenda, replacing Joseph Court and Dodgen Court with Bobolink Drive.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
so I see the resolution 14 and the resolution 15 were for changing the streets, but they also have,
The amount.
yes.
We're working on that. We're working
Okay.
on it.
So Mr. Hedger is actually printing the correct new 15 now, correct, Mr. Hedger? That's what I hear printing?
Yes, Mr. President.
But we do need to amend the agenda. And we need a second for the
I'll
amendment.
second that.
All right, motion to amend the agenda, tonight's agenda with changing the title of the first reading for Resolution 15, replacing Joseph Court and Dodgen Court with Bobolink Drive by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. DeWald. Any other discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Mr. President, can I try this again?
Ms. Zorb,
I'd now like to accept the agenda as amended.
Right.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I'll second that.
1 second. Is it?
Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. DeWald to accept tonight's agenda as amended. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. We have the minutes from the May 1st meeting.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I believe those minutes are recorded properly. I move to approve those minutes.
Mr. President, I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Zorb. Motion by Ms. DeWald. Second by Ms. Zorb to approve the minutes from the 5/1/2023 meeting. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Mr. Hedger, do we have any communication this evening?
No, Mr. President.
That will take us to council committees, starting with City Community Development and Recreation. When Ms. Alexander sent her notice that she would not be here this evening, she did send the minutes from that meeting via email.
Mr. President, would you like me, Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein,
would you like me to read them?
if you have them ready.
Yes. So, in the City Community Development and Recreation Committee agenda, they talked about the renters registration and legislation, or renters registration legislation. There was an update from the Recreation Director, Ms. Clear. Only one active and engaged commissioner. I won't go into the details. I'll just skim over because I don't attend that meeting. There was an update from the city administrator, Ms. Ike, on the comprehensive plan. And they were talking about the upcoming meeting on 5/11. The NCH Tree City US Board update, Ms. Zorb, and talked about Veterans Park and getting the wildflowers planted on the hill. And then there was old business and new business. And in new business, there was a vacant by the city Cincy State putting in the square speed humps on Hamilton Avenue, and then they adjourned at 7:20 p.m.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the next meeting will be June 12th. At 6 PM, correct?
Yes,
6:30.
6:30, yes.
I'm sorry, 6:30, thank you. All right, next is budget and finance.
So we met Monday, May 8th, from 7:30 to 8:30. We started our meeting at 7:32 PM. And then we talked about our air conditioner, and they're coming to repair it in the aggregation program, and we're vetting, our administration is vetting programs, and they're just gonna come back to us with an update. They're gonna try to schedule something for us to, a presentation. And then we talked about finance software and the appropriation for that. Administration is also handling that. And then there were a lot of other appropriations that we kind of needed to go over, and that was amongst the first quarter cleanup. And then we talked about our pay core versus ADP. We're possibly switching our software there. And then we talked about the date for the upcoming audit in June, late June, July. And then we had discussion for new employment concerning the senior center and new and old business, and we adjourned at 8:36. And our next meeting is June 12th, 2023 at 7:30 PM.
Thank you, Ms. Dukestein. Rules and Public Policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. We haven't met since our last council meeting. Our next meeting will be on May 22nd at 6:30 PM.
Thank you. And Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Safety also hasn't met since our last council meeting. Public Safety will meet again on May 22nd at 7:30 PM.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood. Next on the agenda is ad hoc reports. Does anyone have an ad hoc report from a committee this evening?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald.
I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting. I believe it was Thursday, this past Thursday. Quite a fun group, actually. And it was very informative. We had a representative from Warren Davidson's campaign that represented and spoke about things that he did in the life that he lived. And then there was monumentous amounts of pizza. And then the meeting was closed.
Thank you. Any other ad hoc reports this evening? All right, we'll move to administrative reports. Good evening, Madam Mayor. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. President. I don't have a lot. I do know we have a guest tonight, so I'll be brief. Just to remind everyone, this is the last week of school next week, not this week. I wish it were this week. Next week for the kiddos, so look for them out in the community. The high school does graduate this Friday. Typically in the past, they would have a parade, their last official day, which is Thursday, but I don't think that they're going to actually have a street parade. They put on their caps and gowns and like bounce through the actual school ground, so they won't be in their cars this year. So I know 2020, they had a really long one that year. CIC will meet this Thursday at 6:30 right here in this building. Was it last week? There was a brief planning commission meeting. We did swear in a new member, Mr. Frank Schultz. Additionally, I have one question for Ms. Zorb. I'm not sure if the tree commission has thought about like the water. I don't garden again. The rainwater basin where you catch the rainwater. There's a net from the rooftops. Have you guys? I noticed one at the community garden the other day, and I just thought about the flowers and how we are trying to figure out how we can water the plants. Is that something that you guys have thought about doing?
Madam Mayor, we have not talked about that, but I can certainly put it on our agenda.
Yeah.
We can toss the
I mean, I
idea
guess
around.
I was thinking, I'm not sure how it would get there, but it'd be a nice way to catch a bunch of water for that instead of the jugs, just a bigger barrel. I know they sell them. I actually saw one in Sam's over the weekend, and I was surprised. But there's one at the community garden over on Goodman. They have it. It's a shed in the back, and it sits right up against it. So I assume that's how they water that garden.
My only caveat to that is there aren't really any structures around any of the trees that we've planted to actually catch the water.
I thought about that too, so that's why I said, where would you put it? Like, you could put one, maybe somewhere off one of these buildings, these corners on this building, but
But
how
then we're
would you
still
get it
using
there?
the jugs to get it.
Just roll it up to the Christmas tree, maybe.
Mr. President,
Mr. President.
sorry.
Ms. Nichols, are you finished?
I'm done.
Ms. Dewald?
Have we thoroughly looked into the water tanks? We found out that there's 2 of them owned by the city.
Oh, I thought I heard her say,
So-
something. Sorry, go ahead.
I have not had a chance to do that yet.
I'm sure. I mean, I know that we have a short crew. But if somebody could load that on the truck and, that would be the easiest
That would be awesome if we could,
and the most cost-effective.
Any other questions for the mayor?
Yes.
Ms. Blythe?
Mayor Nichols, since you mentioned the school children, will the school district still be offering the free breakfast and lunch for the children during the summer?
They always have.
Okay,
That generally runs the entire summer, and I know they have summer programs this year, so
okay,
it runs the entire summer.
great.
And it's
Okay.
generally, they do breakfast, and then they do lunch, and it's typically over at 1, I believe.
By 1 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Brunner?
Escape Theaters will offer an 8-week summer kids movie program this summer. A selection of G-rated PG or alternate PG-13 movies will be shown on Tuesdays or Thursdays at 9:30 a.m. to entertain the children while they're out for the summer.
Wow.
So,
That's good.
Thank you. Any other questions for the mayor?
Oh, we have the Memorial Day Parade. I guess you all know that. So that's on the 27th, I'm sorry, at 11 a.m.
All right. Next,
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Ms. DeWald?
I was writing and didn't want to talk at the same time. Who knows what note I would have. So have we secured the positioning for the council members? Have we secured vehicles for them?
I have not spoken with Ms. Clear. Ms. Iki could probably give you a better account. We're not scheduled to speak until this Wednesday about different things, so.
And when will that meeting happen? Wednesday?
With Ms. Clear,
Yes.
after 4
Oh, okay,
p.m.
okay.
I did have one other thing, Mr. President. I do apologize. I do not have a lot of details, but I did have contact with someone from the city of Cincinnati in regards to, I can't remember which committee meeting it was when we talked about speed humps and possibly a collaboration with them for Hamilton. So I don't have very many details. I'm waiting for a name and a number to get back to me.
Mr. President,
Ms. Blythe?
that was going to be my question tonight. I know that we're currently, getting Hamilton repaved, but do we have any future plans maybe before the fall to add some of those, the square speed humps on certain areas of Galbraith Road, or I'm too far ahead of the game? We've been talking about speed humps for the past 2 to 3 public safety meetings, so that was a question that I had for anybody in administration.
Mr. President.
Ms. Iki?
Ms. Blythe. We met with JMA, staff did last week, to talk about some of these concerns that have come up over the last couple of meetings. They heard our concerns. We told them what we were looking at. They're going to come back with a proposal for us, which will likely involve some kind of traffic study along Hamilton Avenue there. In your materials that I sent you last week, I sent you the one from Galbraith Road. I didn't know we had it. Somebody called it to my attention. So if you had not seen that document, it was included in your packet on Friday when it was sent out. It is from 2020, but I think a lot of the ideas there would also be applicable to Hamilton Avenue.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the city administrator's report. Ms. Icky.
Thank you, Mr. President. For my report tonight, I actually have a guest, Mr. Dan Dieters from Energy Alliances. Dan is going to talk to us about the aggregation program that we discussed in the committee meeting last week. Luckily, our schedules aligned and he was available tonight, so I figured sooner rather than later, especially if this is something that council would like to take a look at further. And he's prepared a PowerPoint for us, and he's going to walk us through the information. So it is all yours, Mr. Dieters.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Can you all see this on your, or just what here?
Just up there.
I'll do my best. I don't have my readers on, so I left them at home. So basically, what energy aggregation is we take all the eligible residential users within the city of North College Hill, we package all their energy together, and we take it out to suppliers and essentially have them bid on that package. And we bring that package back to the city, and we can do virtually anything. We can do renewable energy, we can do regular energy, we can do a combination of both so that residents can choose, and we can have the default be either green energy or brown energy. It'll be up to the council. All we do is we have to initially have it has to appear on the ballot. It has to, the residents have to pass it, and we help with a informational campaign to do that, to make sure folks understand what this really is. And in the surrounding communities, Colerain, Green, Wyoming, you're going to see their residents have a tremendous amount of savings this year. About $35 a month starting in June. What's going on in Southwest Ohio, Duke's rate is headed north of 10 cents a kilowatt hour. I think you probably have seen some of that in the newspaper. And what we do is we take that and we buy futures against today's prices, and we are able to blend that into a fixed price. If you look at Colerain, they're going to spend I think 6.89 cents a kilowatt hour. Green is the same. Wyoming, I think, is 6.7 at this point. We run about 35 or 40 electric programs, and another 30 plus gas programs. So I could get you specifics on where they are, but I know all of our communities are between 6.3 cents and 7.1 cents right now, kilowatt hour. So that equates to essentially a savings of between $32 and $40. Now that's per month per average user. So you're talking about, yes, for some folks, a $500 savings a year, which is pretty significant in this market. Did I change here? Let me see if I got, okay. These are some of the communities that use our programs right there. If you want to go through them, I'm sure Ms. Icky could have, I think it's probably in your packet somewhere, if not. So this is basically how this works. Is there's generators, people that go out and either procure the energy or generate the energy themselves, and then they give it to the local utility. What we do is we help procure it with the supplier, and then we get it to your end users, and it appears on their bill. None of the bills change. Everything in your bill stays the same. You can still do even billing, and Duke Energy Ohio still handles all the service. So, and they don't care whether you're in an aggregation or not. They don't even know whether you're in an aggregation or not when they come to fix things at your house. So it's not really a concern for them. Went through that already. Who governs these? The PUCO does, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. So what happens is we run the informational campaign for your citizens. They come out and they vote in November. Once the vote passes, we go and we do all the paperwork for the city, for the PUCO. We prepare it all. The administration, and we've done this 7 dozen times. So the administration, all they have to do is kind of call balls and strikes, get things signed. We prepare it all, we make sure it's all correct, and we make sure that you are the certified aggregator, the city of Cincinnati. Some brokers will make them the aggregator for the city. We don't do that. We make sure that, you know, if something would happen between our relationship, you can still run the program without us. So there's 400 electric, 250 natural gas programs over that in the state of Ohio at this point, running right now. Duke Energy still delivers it. Residents, like I said before, receive one bill, and any of the programs that, if you're on even billing, that's not going to affect. So who can't participate in the program? If you're already out shopping it, Duke doesn't allow us, the PCO doesn't allow us to put you in the program. Those enrolled in PIP cannot participate. That's a PUCO rule. I think it's a bad rule, but that's a fight for another day. And those that have previously opted out of programs are allowed to get on a do not aggregate list. So they won't have an issue if they don't want to do it. No, there's a couple of things about our company and the way we do things. There's a period in which you can opt out with the PUCO. But all of our programs, you can opt out at any time or opt in at any time, always at the original price. We make the supplier do that. So if you're in a program and it ends, let's say in the middle of the North College Hill program, you can come into that program at maybe a much cheaper price than the market because the North College Hill program started earlier. So that's the advantage of having us help with these programs and help manage it. The other thing is we take all the calls. If your resident calls, there's about a 95% chance they're going to get me on the phone. I field these calls all the time. I help people in and out of the programs. I make sure they understand the programs, and I make sure that the program is worthwhile, that we are saving money for the residents. Basically, it's hard to explain, but the Duke rate every month is variable. It depends on how you use energy in your own home. So what this does is this gives you a flat, guaranteed rate throughout the year, and you can know what you're going to be paying, and you know what your budget is going to be, because your bill will tell you how much you use annually. So you know what you're going to spend annually. Duke, not so much. So I will tell you this, when folks in North College Hill see their bills this June, people are not going to be happy at all. So can we stop it for June? No, we can't do anything now. But if we get it on the ballot for November and we get it through, we can stop next year. Because this isn't going anywhere for a couple of years. We know, because of how energy is procured through Duke, we know that this year, we know the price is going to be 10.2 cents kilowatt hour. We know next year that there'd have to be an extremely large reduction in energy prices to get it down from there. So even if energy prices went back to 5 cents, next year is still going to be 7.5 cents or 8 cents. And I'm certain that we can beat those prices for your residents also. So residents can always come and go. We make the current terms and conditions that the chosen supplier are beneficial to your residents. We're here to protect the residents. I'm here to get them the best price. I'm here to make sure that they can come and go as they please, and I want to make sure that the only thing that the supplier needs to do is be able to fulfill the contract. So those are things that we manage, and we make sure that happens. We've had issues in the north where the suppliers opted out of the contract. It just happened last year. that would never have happened with us because they have to make sure that it's all purchased. So these are always better. If you go out on your own and you get on the apples to apples at the PUCO website, there's no program like our programs. Our programs are always really, really low price. They may not be the very lowest, but there's always a term or a condition that you got to be careful of. And at the end of the programs, when you buy them third party or the stuff in the mail or the stuff you get on your phone, at the end of that program, whether it's 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years, the price that they're going to give you, that they're going to roll you into, is going to be giant, like 2 or 3 times sometimes the number. I get calls every day where people are paying 20 cents a kilowatt hour in some of the neighborhoods that we work in. There's, like I said, there's never a termination fee. You can come and go. Market conditions are always changing, but aggregation brings a lot of price protection to your residents. So you always know where it's going to go. And when it's time to renew, we come back and we tell you, you need to renew with this supplier at this price. In November of last year, we had 12 communities where we could not beat Duke price. We told them all to go back to Duke until this month. So we're not going to sell you a program that serves us. We're going to sell you a program that serves your community. Listen, I didn't like not getting paid for 6 months. I have to be the worst energy salesman in history to go to a city, township, village and say, hey, go back to utility. But we had to do it because it's the right thing to do, and it didn't help. If I'd have put them in a deal then, it would have never be as low as they are now. It would have been 8 or 9 cents. It would have been good, and you have some neighbors that had that happen, but we don't operate that way. So we have full customer service. We help people understand the ballot language. The ballot language can be confusing. We want to make sure that we explain it to the residents through newsletters, your website, our website. If you guys decided to do this, you'd immediately get a page on our website that would start explaining the issues to folks. And you can link it from your website. So you have a question about aggregation, boom, it goes right over to ours, and it's all right there, and it explains everything. So once we've done doing the PUCO materials, it takes about 4 months because there's a lot of waiting for it's the government, right? so there's a lot of sitting around in that 4 months. But then as soon as that's over, we get the list of eligible customers from North College Hill. We go out to 4 or 5 suppliers. We get the best price. We get all the prices back, and then we start renegotiating those prices down further. So we just don't kind of throw it at the wall and see, okay, here's the lowest price. We'll negotiate it even down further as soon as those prices come back. So then everybody will get notice, and then the program will start. So you'll see if you look, I can't see this at all.
We can't either.
This is a quarterly performance report.
It's yellow.
But this is what the administration will get for you to take a look and see exactly how your program's doing every 3 months. So this one's, what we got here? Springfield Township. So the life of the program, it's saved Springfield Township $1.4 million since 2020. So that's just something that we provide that not all other people provide, to just tell you where your program is. And this is Springfield. Let's see their rates. You have to look up here to see the rate. So this is what the page would look like, but it would say North College Hill, and then it would tell you what your gas rate is and what your electric. So their electric is 6.78 cents. And then that's something you link from your site. People come over and say, okay, here's how I pay. It's got all the phone numbers on there to call, and then it has ours. And we tend to handle a lot of that because Duke's call centers in North Carolina, they don't know what an aggregation is, so we'd rather just have them call us. So we handle those calls, and we would just much rather talk to the residents ourselves because we can give them a straight answer and tell them what to do. And if they come up with a better price, I'll tell them to take it. Okay, so even if we are certified, so the vote passes, you get certified as a PUCO aggregator, we get to the altar next May, and I come in here and I say, prices aren't any good. We're not going to do it. We don't want you to do anything. Stick with Duke. Okay, something happens, some anomaly happens, the prices go through the floor. We're going to tell you, you know, you don't have to do an aggregation. You just have to be prepared to do one, and that's what we do. You control the program, the council does. We give you all the options, and you call the balls and the strikes. That's it. I'll stand up here, and you'll have 4 options, or more, depending on what you ask for, and then you say, okay, let's do this. Let's do this option. Who wants to do A? Who wants to do B? We talk it through, and that's how it goes. And then you decide. We are always looking for the best value at the start of the program. So we know we can tell you what the price is going to be for a year, for sure. And usually it's 18 months. And then we know about half of what the price is going to be for 2 years. So we can have a pretty good idea of where it all is going, and we can tell you, you know, this is going to be a good price. I mean, I live in Blue Ash. My aggregate, we don't have an aggregation.
Yeah.
I go to 10.2 cents in a month.
Oh, gosh.
So as far as, so here's a timeline that I'll let you guys look at your own. I kind of went through it a little bit, and there's the end of it. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Mr. President?
Ms. DeWald?
The vehicle used to get this to the public would be through the ballot.
Correct.
Is there other ways that you would communicate with the community about what this is all about, rather than just seeing it on a ballot?
Oh, well, my assumption is we would be on your website, we would, if you have a newsletter, we would be in that, and we send out our own communication too to residents.
Okay.
We'll take it, we will send out for lack of a better term, a short mailer that kind of describes what's going on. In some communities, the council's written a letter, and we put that out and said, okay, here's why we've put this on the ballot for you to choose. I'll drown Miss Icky in literature, and she can pick what she wants.
Mr. President.
I've been doing this since 2005, even when I was at the courthouse. I've been doing this since 2005, and we've run nearly 80 of these elections. We've not lost one. We've lost one.
Wow.
7-4 in a very tiny little area. And you know, we can expect if you put it on the ballot, we can expect it to pass.
Ms. Orr?
So I have a couple questions, sorry. So when you talked about all the communities, so do all communities get the same rate, or each community gets a different rate? How does that part work?
Every community is on their own contract. We bid them out. So there's a bunch of those communities are in 2-year deals right now. So you would come in when you started, and you would be on your own contract. However, Energy Alliances has nearly 350,000 electric homes in this footprint in southern Ohio. It'll be about 300,000. It was a little bit more. And the suppliers want to do business with us because we have all this other business out there. So there's no strength really in numbers when you have, because look at it this way, if the city of Cincinnati's aggregation program is very good because they cut a deal 4 or 5 years ago, okay? But there are some areas that North College Hill would supplement their price because your users use energy a little bit more efficiently than some other neighborhoods. I wouldn't want to walk in and say, okay, well, your price is 6.7, but we put you with Forest Park, and now it's 6.9, and you're supplementing their program. So we don't do that. Everybody's separate. We run the RFPs through the suppliers, and then we negotiate for the load for this city.
Okay, so then, I heard, I think I picked this up. You said council makes a lot of decisions, you'll come out with a plan A, B, C, D, whatever. Is that where that time span would be negotiated or decided upon? I'm assuming that's where that is?
So what'll happen is once you get certified, we can't do anything until you're certified as an aggregator. We can't even get the list from Duke. So as soon as we get that, we will get down to a negotiated price with the ones that we feel are gonna compete. And then we'll come back and say, okay, here's 2 or 3, here's their number, we think we can get the furthest down with X supplier, and then I'll come in and I'll say, okay, we think, we'll make a recommendation that you choose X supplier, that you do green energy if you want, with a default to brown, or with a default to green, and people can choose the other, that'll be a little bit cheaper. And we'll make a recommendation, but you'll have the full scorecard in front of you.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Hang on. So, how often does it fluctuate? So it only fluctuates after the contract is over? Okay. And then, this is my tricky question. What does Energy Alliance get out of this? How do you guys get paid?
We get paid through the supplier. We charge 0.0005 cents a kilowatt hour. 3 zeros. That's a thousandth of a cent per kilowatt hour.
How big is?
It's a very tiny, but we have 350,000 thousandths of kilowatt hour. So that's, and I'll tell you this, we are the lowest margin company that does this, and we do high volume. That's why we're able to do it like that. If I would give you the numbers of the suppliers that we use, and they will tell you that we do it a little bit differently than other people.
Thank you. That's all that I have.
Mr. President?
Mr. President, I'll go after Ms. Berner.
Does this program work like the more people in College Hill sign up, the better deal?
No, because so this is an opt-out program, meaning if you're one of the eligible folks, you'll get a letter saying, unless you tell us you're going to be in the program. That's a 21-day period, but as I said before, our opt-outs, you can go out whenever you want without any fees of any kind. So if you think to yourself, okay, man, I wanted to do this, or I didn't want to do this, I don't want the government deciding what I should do with my energy, which they already do because that's what the PUCO does. That nameless, faceless committee up in Columbus, they're already deciding for you. It's better to bring it down to this level where this council can say, okay, we want to do this or we don't want to do this. That way you add another layer in. Before they get a hold of it, you can decide whether they're going to get a hold of it or not. So it's an opt-out. You can come out, you can go out and you say, oh, I got out of it. Man, I'm now spending $35 more a month. I want to get back in. You call our office, put you back in, no fee, and you're back in at the old price. Not at some other invented price that they have out there.
Thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
Thank you. Is it possible that we can have a copy of your PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, Zeke has it.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Ms. Dickstein?
So I have a few questions. So you said that it's an opt-out program. So what qualifies a resident to be in the program? So do you all look for those qualifiers through Duke Energy?
So Duke gives us a list. They pull out people that have already chosen other suppliers, and we go from that list. So if you're with ABC Energy, you got an offer in the mail and you liked it, that address will not be on our list. So it's only folks that are in the city.
Right.
That have not chosen another program.
So you talked about a few things that would disqualify residents, like there were 2 things I can't remember.
That's
And what was the other one?
being with another supplier.
Okay, so you already addressed the other
Yeah.
supplier thing.
So,
Then what happens with those? Because go ahead.
so what happens, what happens is, the utilities are very, very powerful when it comes to lobbying the PUCO. And they maintain all the credit. So they maintain all the payments to everyone. So there's 50 suppliers in Ohio. So Duke does all the readings, gets it all back, and then sends out the money that suppliers are supposed to get. They, for some reason, have asked the folks that are on PIP, they would not be able to participate for whatever reason they decided, which I think stinks.
So the reason I would be concerned about that is so that no one gets switched over, because like if we have seniors who are utilizing that program, or, I mean, I don't
Well, it wouldn't be.
I don't know the qualifiers for
I don't
that.
know it
so,
either.
But
They wouldn't.
Okay.
They wouldn't even be on the list.
Okay.
They would not get taken into the program at all. And the big reason, people always say, well, why not something that we can just opt into? Well, if you do it that way, the price stinks, to make a long story short. There's a formula that they have. If I say, okay, here's the X number, say there's 5,000 people in North College Hill, there's 5,000 meters. I don't know what the number is. They know they are going to get that. There's a formula. They know what percentage they're going to get, and they can drive that price down and become competitive with each other because they know the captured usage. So that's why it's an opt-out instead of an opt-in. Opt-in is no better than the guys that come around and knock on the doors and try to sucker you into giving them your bill.
Yeah.
then my last question is, so in some of the other aggregation programs, I'm not accusing, I'm just asking. I know that Duke Energy, because you said in your PowerPoint that they still manage the equipment. And they come out, if we had a service call, they would still come out. So our bill goes down per kilowatt through this aggregation program, but doesn't Duke still charge a renter's fee for their equipment?
They charge the exact, so the only portion that we're gonna attack is the electric generation fee in the bill. All the other delivery stuff and all the other stuff that PUCO regulates, we all pay that. So the difference between, say, Colerain Township bill, it'll be all the same as the Springfield Township bill. And when you get to the bottom, one of them will say 6.79 and one of them will say 6.89.
And so is that on the one aggregated whatever company or option A, B, or C? Is that all on one bill? Or is that separated? You pay Duke their fee and then you pay the aggregation
No. it's
company's
all-
fee?
Duke does all the billing. You get the exact. Most people don't even know until they, well, everybody's going to know in about 3 weeks. but most people don't even know that it changes until they kind of look at their bill. But there are a lot of savvy voters out there that do know it's coming.
I was going to say, there are a lot of people that
There
know.
are a lot
'cause
of them.
I work for a solar company, and I was asking the engineers about this.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they've noted in just commercial energy and some small homes that have like farms and stuff on them is that the renter's fee goes up for Duke's equipment. It does not stay the same. And so sometimes what you lose or you save in kilowatts, the renter's portion goes up and your bill actually doesn't change.
This doesn't affect that fee. This is just the generation portion of the bill. The thing about commercial, all those fees have gone up. Within the PUCO's allowed commercial, we do a lot of commercial business too. They've almost doubled those fees in the last year. And the other thing is if you have a building like, I'm trying to think of, Kroger's, okay? They're paying a much cheaper rate than each individual house at North College Hill would be because they use energy more, they use a lot more energy and they use it a lot more efficiently than just a regular house does. So their rate is even lower than the aggregation. But businesses that are in the aggregation will enjoy the same rate. So if you see all the businesses on Galbraith Road, the going up there, they're all be eligible because they won't use enough energy to be too big for it.
So I hear you, but I didn't hear you speak to the fact that sometimes the renter's fee goes up.
It will not go up with this.
Okay.
It will not go up with aggregation.
Okay.
We're just pulling the generation portion out and replacing that and buying that energy ahead of time.
How can you guarantee that it's not going to go up, though?
I can guarantee it.
Okay, I just want to
I'll
make
give
sure
your
we're
money
doing the
back
best
if it
thing
goes
for
up.
our voters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have people call me and they say, well, is this a good deal? I say, listen, if it's not a good deal, I'll pay your bill next month. But if it is a good deal, you give me the difference. I've gotten 0 people take that offer.
All right, those are my questions.
Any other questions for Mr. Dieters? All right.
August 2nd would be the deadline to get on the ballot.
I don't even know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dieters. I will follow up with you. I only have one other item that I want to call to your attention.
Tina's Bob.
As I told you a couple of weeks ago, we have a planned power outage, ironically enough, talking about energy, on Friday in this building. Duke has to replace the pole out front that got damaged in that accident from a couple of weeks ago. So this building will not be opened on Friday. So we'll be working remotely and at the senior center, and obviously Public Works will be out cutting grass and doing public works things outside, but this building will not be open to the public on Friday. I believe we put that on our website. We'll put it on our social media. We've let the DAV and the other folks in the building know that it would not be open. Our key fobs won't work, so you will not be able to access it. Duke expects that to take 6 to 8 hours for the replacement. So that is all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Ziki. Anyone have any questions for the city administrator?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
is it just this building, or is it going to be like houses and streets particularly that way?
It is only this building.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, move on. Next item on the agenda is the law director's report. Mr. Dieters is not here this evening. Next item is the finance director report. And our finance director is not with us either, so we will move to call of members, starting with Ms. Dukestein.
I just want to say hello, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and that is all for me this week.
Thank you. Ms. Dewald?
Hi, I went to the Schoolhouse Rocks play here at North College Hill. It was the most remarkable thing. Those kids, they generated so much happy energy. You couldn't walk out of there and not be happy. And when you saw the kids in the hallway, you know, we're politically correct now. You just want to hug them and go, what a great job you guys did. It was awesome. So I encourage people, when you hear that there's a play at the school, go, because they're from, I don't know how the youngest girl is, but then it looks like they might go up to seniors. And that's incredible.
Mr. President,
Ms. Nichols?
you should be very familiar. His daughter was Cinderella one year, I believe.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
for the musicals, I think they use middle school as well.
Yes.
They use
Yeah,
middle
it
school
looked like a
and
whole,
high
yeah,
school.
like maybe every classroom had been represented. But and also, this past Thursday was our comprehensive meeting plan. And if you missed that, you missed a lot. There's great ideas floating out there, but that's what we pay them for. So it's going to take us to take action on what's going on. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. President. I too just want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Orb?
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blythe?
No comment at this time.
Thank you. Finally, Ms. Brunner?
I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the ladies in North College Hill and around the world.
Thank you. All right, that'll bring us to remarks from the audience. Mr. Hedger, is anyone signed in?
No, Mr. President.
All right, we'll move to legislation. Would you like for me to read the legislation for you tonight, sir?
That would be very nice. Thank you.
All right, we'll start with first reading, resolution number 13-2023, a resolution approving the update of the solid waste management plan of the Hamilton County Solid Waste Management District.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
just want to know how this got to the agenda. Did you put this on the agenda or how it got to the agenda?
Yes, I put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
that's Rumpke, right?
Ms. Zeki, do you want to give a quick explanation?
It's related to our recycling program. Hamilton County has rolled out an updated plan and is asking all of the municipalities within the county to approve it. If we don't approve it, they will take that as a disapproval, and they will record that there. But our recycling grant dollars that we get from Resource come through this program. And so I sent you a link. I think it was over the weekend. If you want to see the full actual plan that the county has put together, you can take a look at that. But they are asking everyone to approve it.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald?
is this the one, I read your email and I can't keep it all separate now. We have to have this done within a time frame?
I think it's September. Yeah.
So if we just stick with our normal scheduled meeting, that would make July, that we would approve it. Or if council so desired, we could suspend and approve it tonight and get it off the charts.
That is correct.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald?
I motion to suspend second and third reading.
Motion on the floor to suspend second and third reading of resolution 13-2023.
Mr. President, I'll second that.
All right, motion to suspend second and third reading, resolution 13-2023. Motion by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Underwood. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I believe the schedule that was set forth allows us to just handle this through regular meetings. And it still would pass in the time required. So I guess I don't understand the justification to suspend the second and third reading.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I just wanted to get it so we're not sitting here for 5 minutes. We can let's just vote.
I hear you. Thank you.
All right, motion on
Mr.
the floor.
President,
Ms. DeWald?
I believe this is something that we see quite a few times throughout the years. Is that correct? Like didn't we just do something like this like 3 or 4 years ago? Well, you wouldn't know.
I don't know.
No.
And I don't know the last time that Hamilton County updated the plan.
Yeah. So in order for us to stay in the program, we need to pass it, but,
Mr.
all right, I'll rescind the
I
suspension
believe,
then, even though we
Mr.
have a
President, I
second.
believe, to Ms. Dewald's point, I believe it was maybe 3 years ago, I believe, when we first started the program.
Yeah.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
Ms. Eakey, do you happen, for one, I don't have the email, or I don't know if I'm missed it or I'm looking through, but do you know specifically what changed from our last time voting on this? And it's probably before my time.
I do not. I could take a look at it. I'd have to get both of them out and compare it.
No, you don't have to. I can look at it. It's okay. I'll reserve you from that work.
All right, Ms. DeWald, did I hear you say you're withdrawing your motion?
Maybe not. Let's vote on it.
All right. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
No.
Ms. DeWald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
No.
Ms. Zorb,
No.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brenner.
No.
Motion failed. 4-2.
Thank you. All right, next we have first reading for resolution number 14-2023, a resolution authorizing the city to execute a contract for reconstruction of Joseph Court and Dodgen Court in the city of North College Hill. Next, we have first reading resolution number 15-2023, a resolution authorizing the city to execute a contract for reconstruction of Bobolink Drive in the city of North College Hill. All right, final piece of legislation is a first reading for ordinance number 06-2023, an ordinance to assess the costs of private lead line replacement for certain participating property owners and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
so are these the ones that the waterworks are repairing first or replacing first? Or are they doing the whole city? Or these are the ones that are most pertinent that need it? Or these are the ones that the customer said that they wanted to do it?
That one,
Okay.
yes. So you passed legislation in 2020 for these houses to enter into the payment program. And so every year, council has to pass an ordinance allowing these properties to be assessed for that fee to pay for the work that has already been completed. So you passed this in 22, you passed it in 21, originally in 2020.
Thank you.
This one does have a September deadline, and since you have to pass it, I thought we could get this one off the table for the summer. And then we'll be several months ahead of the game.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I move to suspend second and third.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Dukestein, to suspend second and third readings for ordinance 6-2023. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
No.
Ms. Zorb,
No.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion failed, 2-4.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is further remarks from the audience as it pertains to legislation. All right, we will move on to old business.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
Ms. Eki, can we get an update on the air conditioner?
Wednesday and Thursday of this week.
Thank you.
You say Wednesday and Thursday of this week? Ms. Brunner, I received an email from you today. This actually would be old business since we have discussed it before. So if you would like to bring that up now.
Well, I will be taking the role of Chairman of Community Development and Recreation.
So Ms. Brunner is volunteering to be the chair for the City Community Development and Recreation Committee.
So, Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
let's do it formally then.
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ms. Donna Bruner as the chair of City Community Development and Recreation.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Underwood, to appoint Ms. Bruner as the chair for the City Community Development and Recreation. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
just for the sake of Miss Alexander, I'm going to say thank you. Because I know she has been begging for that position to get filled, so thank you for her.
I have been getting regular emails from Ms. Alexander asking me the status of that appointment. So yes, I also appreciate that and thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWalden.
I also wanted to speak on this issue. I applaud you, Ms. Brunner. This is your second council meeting, and you stepped up to take a position that nobody wanted to take. It shows great strength and leadership in you, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second that.
All right, Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. DeWald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Brunner. Any other old business?
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
it came to my attention that we do not really have a representative for Chamber of Commerce. When Ms. Zorb was put into the position she's in, that person held it, so it was kind of, grandfathered into her, but she works during the day, and most of their meetings are during the day. So when I went to that Chamber of Commerce meeting, I asked, what do I do to get on? And they said, just show up. So for our records, we have a chart that keeps all this stuff. I'd like to be the Chamber of Commerce representative.
Would we like to show our support through a nomination for that?
Sure. Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I would like to nominate Ms. DeWald to be the representative for City Council for the North College Hill Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'll second that.
All right, motion from Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Zorb to nominate Ms. DeWald as the Chamber of Commerce rep for the city. Any discussion? Thank you for that volunteering. Showed a
Whatever.
lot of strength. Kurt, you want me to give you all that? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Mr. Hedger, please save me and call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. DeWald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
President, I do have one more question on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hedger, I know your voice doesn't travel that far, but can you see this far? Do you have one of these in your computer?
There is a more updated one than that list.
Good. So would you see that we get one, please?
Yes.
And while I'm looking at the list, do we have a school board representative?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Last call for old business. Move to new business. Anyone have any new business tonight?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I don't want to put Ms. Bruner on the spot, but have you considered any other committee? There is a requirement that you're on 2 committees.
I was considering the policy committee. Was it policy?
Rules and Public Policy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
just,
But I was considering.
okay.
Who's the chair of that committee?
Have you haven't sit in on all the committees yet, correct?
No.
Because I think we had talked about you sitting in on all the committees to make your selection.
I watch the videos.
Oh, you do?
The movies.
Yeah.
All right, any other new business?
Mr. President,
Ms.
I
DeWald?
just wanted to clarify, so that's a for sure, or you're still going to think about it for a minute?
I did not get a commitment from her.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
hearing no more, I would like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
Motion from Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Underwood to adjourn tonight's meeting. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. DeWald,
Yes?
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.